Silence stretched between them, the gentle wind rustling the leaves above. Isabella could see the battle in Victoria's eyes, between pride and the desire to let go of years of bitterness. Finally, Victoria sighed, releasing years of tension. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. Joseph squeezed her hands. "Just say you'll accept help. We've lived this way for so long. Maybe it's time for a change." Tears welled up in Victoria's eyes as she slowly nodded. I accept," she said, allowing her tears to fall freely. Isabella smiled, feeling a shift. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but for the first time in years there was hope. They were all moving toward healing. The next morning, the first rays of sunlight streamed into the cozy living room of Isabella's home. Joseph and Victoria had spent the night there, still cautious and uncertain about the drastic change in their lives. Isabella's home, warm and elegant, contrasted sharply with the struggles the couple had endured. But for the first time in a long while, the possibility of a new beginning seemed real. The reality that Joseph and Victoria had faced on the streets weighed heavily on Isabella's mind. Sitting by the window with a hot cup of coffee, she watched the sun rise, her thoughts tangled. Having them in her home wasn't just an act of charity. It was an attempt to heal old wounds, forgive, and find peace. Victoria appeared at the door, hesitating as she adjusted to the idea of being under Isabella's roof. The once proud and fierce woman was now fragile, her shoulders slumped under the weight of years and sorrow. Her eyes, though tired, held a flicker of something new, perhaps hope. "You're up early," Isabella said with a gentle smile, motioning to the sofa beside her. "Would you like some coffee?" After a brief hesitation, Victoria sat down slowly. "Yes, I'd like some, thank you." Isabella poured her a cup, and Victoria wrapped her hands around it, letting the warmth soothe her cold fingers. The silence between them was thick, but not hostile. "Still can't believe I'm here," Victoria murmured, almost to herself. "If someone had told me years ago that I would accept your help, I would have laughed." Isabella nodded. "I understand. I never imagined we'd be here together either after everything that happened." Victoria took a deep breath, preparing to say something difficult. "I never looked at you favorably, Isabella. When Emmanuel first spoke of you, I knew you were different from what I had in mind for him. I always thought he needed someone who could help him rise in life." Isabella remained silent, giving Victoria the space to open up. "But now I see how wrong I was," Victoria continued, her voice trembling. "I lost my son, my life, and for years I blamed you. I blamed you for taking Emmanuel away from us for all our misfortunes. But the truth is, what happened was bigger than any of us." Isabella felt a knot in her throat. Victoria's words were something she never expected to hear. "I never wanted to take him away from you," Isabella said softly. "I loved Emmanuel, but I know he loved you both too. He struggled with trying to make everyone happy." Victoria nodded, tears streaming down her face. "For years I was blinded by pain and pride. That resentment destroyed me, and Joseph too. When Emmanuel died, I lost my footing. Now, after all these years, I see that you weren't to blame. I just didn't know how to cope with losing him." Isabella's own tears welled up. "We've all lost, Victoria. I lost the love of my life, and you lost your son. We've both suffered, but neither of us escaped this pain unchanged." Victoria wiped her tears, trying to maintain her composure. "I don't know how to thank you for helping us now, after everything I put you through." "I don't want thanks," Isabella said with compassion. "What I want is for all of us to find peace. Guilt and resentment have eaten away at us for too long. It's time to let go, if not for ourselves, then for Emmanuel." Victoria smiled, a small but genuine smile. He would be happy to see this, wouldn't he? Isabella nodded, her eyes misty. Yes, he would. Just then, Joseph appeared in the doorway, bringing a lighter energy to the room. He seemed more at ease, as if having a roof over his head and a warm bed to sleep in had renewed him. "You two are here talking?" Joseph asked, smiling. "That's a good sign." Victoria and Isabella exchanged glances, then laughed softly. "Yes, Joseph, we're talking," Isabella replied, waving him over. "I think we're finally putting the past in its place." Joseph sighed in relief and sat beside Victoria, gently taking her hand. It wasn't the end of their journey, but it was the start of something new, something better. "I always knew what we had wasn't living," Joseph said, his voice soft but firm. "After we lost everything, the pain swallowed us. But now, maybe we can have a second chance." Isabella smiled at the couple, filled with renewed hope. "You have a place here for as long as you need, but I hope that, with time, we can find something more permanent for you. You deserve a fresh start." Victoria squeezed Joseph's hand, a shy smile forming on her lips. "Thank you, Isabella. Maybe this is our chance to finally let Emmanuel rest in peace." In the weeks that followed, Joseph and Victoria began adjusting to their new life in Isabella's home. The heavy atmosphere, once filled with grief and resentment, gradually lifted, replaced by peace they had long forgotten. Isabella made sure they had more than just a roof over their heads. She gave them the chance to heal. One afternoon, as Isabella was sorting through papers, Joseph walked in and sat beside her, a quiet determination in his eyes. "Isabella," he began, "I've been thinking. I don't want you to feel like we're taking advantage of your generosity. We've been here for a while, and I'm so grateful for all you've done. But I think it's time we start looking for something more permanent." Isabella looked at him with surprise, but also admiration. "Joseph, you're not taking advantage of anything. I want to help because it helps me move forward too, but I understand. You need something of your own." Joseph nodded slowly. "Exactly. We need to rebuild, even if it's something simple. We need a place we can call home." Isabella smiled, touched by his honesty. "That's a wonderful idea, and you don't have to do it alone. We'll look together for a place where you and Victoria can start fresh with dignity." Joseph's eyes welled up with emotion. "I don't know how to thank you for this. After so long on the streets, I thought I'd never have a chance to live a normal life again." "You deserve this new beginning," Isabella replied tenderly, "and so does Victoria." As they spoke, Victoria appeared in the doorway, overhearing the conversation. "Are you talking about leaving here?" she asked, her voice uncertain. Isabella nodded. "Yes, Joseph mentioned you're ready to look for a place of your own. What do you think?" Victoria sighed, her voice trembling. "I don't know. Here, I feel safe. After everything we've been through, the thought of going out on our own again makes me nervous." Isabella stepped closer, gently taking Victoria's hands. "I understand. This doesn't have to happen right away. We'll take it at your pace. But I want you to know you'll always have a home, and I'll always be here for you." Victoria looked at Joseph, who nodded with a reassuring smile. Taking a deep breath, she slowly nodded. "Maybe it's time. As long as we do it knowing we're not alone." "You'll never be alone," Isabella assured her. "We'll take this journey together." Over the following weeks, Isabella dedicated herself to helping Joseph and Victoria find a new home. They visited different neighborhoods, searching for a place that felt right. Finally, they found a small, cozy house in a quiet area near a park. It was simple, but it felt like home. The day of the move was filled with excitement and nervousness. Isabella made sure everything was in place, helping them settle into the new house. That evening, as she stood at the doorstep of their new home, Joseph embraced her warmly. "You've given us something we can never repay, Isabella, the chance to be a family again." Isabella smiled, moved by his words. "You don't need to repay me," she said softly. "Seeing you start fresh is all I could ever ask for. Just live this new life with all the love and gratitude in your hearts," Isabella said softly. "That's more than enough." Victoria, who had been hesitant to show her feelings, stepped forward and hugged Isabella tightly. "I never thought I could forgive or move on, but now I see that forgiveness sets us free. I'm so grateful you gave us this chance." "We're all healing together," Isabella replied with a warm smile. "Emmanuel would be happy to see this." As Isabella stepped back, leaving Joseph and Victoria on the threshold of their new home, she felt a lightness in her heart. The past had been painful, but they were all finally finding a way to peace. Weeks passed after Joseph and Victoria moved into their new home. The adjustment was slow, but the couple found a sense of tranquility they hadn't felt in years. Their walks in the park, quiet dinners, and moments of shared silence became balm for their souls. Isabella visited often, initially to make sure they lacked nothing. What started as brief, formal visits turned into long, relaxed conversations filled with laughter and shared stories. The home she helped them find had become more than just a physical place. It was a space where love and forgiveness could flourish. One sunny Sunday afternoon, Isabella invited Joseph and Victoria to her house for a special surprise. When they arrived, they were greeted with warm smiles and the smell of a delicious meal. "You've come on the perfect day," Isabella said as she guided them to the dining room. "I have a surprise for you." Joseph and Victoria exchanged curious glances as they sat at the beautifully set table. Before they could ask, the door opened and a tall, smiling young man entered. Isabella stood up, her eyes shining with pride. "Joseph, Victoria, I'd like you to meet my son, Esteban. He's just returned from university and was eager to meet you." Victoria's face lit up, and Joseph's eyes sparkled with joy. Esteban approached them with a warm smile, shaking Joseph's hand and giving Victoria a gentle hug. "It's a pleasure to meet you both," he said sincerely. Joseph chuckled lightly. "You look a lot like your mother, and I can see she raised you well." Isabella watched the scene with her heart full of gratitude. This was more than just a family gathering. It was the beginning of a new chapter, a continuation of the love and forgiveness they had built together. Esteban's presence felt like a bridge to the future, a symbol of Emmanuel's legacy living on. During lunch, the conversation flowed easily. Joseph and Victoria, who once carried the weight of years of pain, seemed renewed. After the meal, they moved to the garden for coffee, where Esteban helped Joseph to a seat, while Isabella and Victoria chatted about the flowers lining the path. As they sat in the garden, the sun setting behind them, the atmosphere was one of pure serenity. For a moment, everything seemed perfect. Victoria broke the comfortable silence. "I never thought I could feel this again. The feeling of family, of belonging. I thought it died with Emmanuel." Isabella gently took her hand. "We're rebuilding this together, Victoria. Now we have a chance to create new memories and live more lightly." Joseph, gazing at the horizon, spoke softly. "Emmanuel left us much more than we realized. Even in his absence, he continues to unite us. I feel like he's here, watching, knowing we've found peace." Esteban, listening attentively, leaned in. A person's legacy never really disappears. Emmanuel was an important part of all your lives, and now you're all part of my story too, and I'm so happy about that. Victoria smiled, a tear rolling down her cheek, but this time it wasn't one of sadness, it was one of gratitude and peace. "You're very kind, Esteban," Victoria said warmly. "I think we're all connected by something greater." The rest of the afternoon was filled with deep conversations, laughter, and a sense of reconciliation that hung in the air. As evening approached, Isabella took Joseph and Victoria back to their new home. They exchanged warm hugs, promising that this gathering would not be their last. Walking home with Esteban, Isabella felt a sense of peace wash over her. The cycle of pain and mourning was finally closing. While the past would always be a part of their lives, the future now seemed brighter than ever. After months of pain and healing, Isabella, Joseph, Victoria, and Esteban had found the peace and love they had long sought. Each had been shaped by the past, but together they learned to forgive and move forward, united by bonds that went deeper than blood. Isabella, who had carried the burden of losing Emmanuel, now felt a deep sense of gratitude and serenity. Joseph and Victoria, once consumed by grief, rediscovered the simple joys of life and the warmth of shared love. And Esteban, with his youthful spirit and kindness, brought hope and continuity to their lives. In the end, they became a new family, reborn through forgiveness and unity. Together, they built a home filled with love and hope, ready to face the future with strength. Though the past had been painful, no longer defined them. Instead, love and forgiveness had transformed them, giving them the chance to begin again, full of light and possibilities. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to be the first to watch our next story. Share this with your friends, and check out the video on the end screen. It will move you.